Can you just imagine you live in a massive city, technically advanced, and then you decide to live in a small cubicle? How small? Small enough that you cannot even sleep and lie down properly. I have been to Tokyo once. I thought it was a fantastic city. I really loved everything about it. There is this beautiful mix between the old school architecture and then all the modern lights, all the beautiful ways of how everything is just presented. There is just something about it that is just so engaging. You have multiple signs, there is lights everywhere, and you have this sense as if you're in paradise. It's hard to describe unless you were really there, but it's just a beautiful experience, and it's also one of the biggest reasons why I want to go back to Tokyo to explore it even further, and not only be on the main streets, but also divert into smaller streets and smaller neighborhoods that are not that popular. Because I believe Tokyo always has something to offer, and it always did. I was able to stay awake for most of my trip, and I thought it was 100% worth it. Nonetheless, a first world country with an issue: isolation. I know that isolation is a big term in Tokyo. Before I went there, I knew that this already somehow existed. Now, I cannot speak for everyone in the city itself, but I can say for the amount of time that I spent there, there seems to be a genuine issue with people being isolated from where they actually live. They don't seem as if they want to be with other people. Or in other words, it actually seems as if there is this magical barrier that splits everyone from one another. For example, when the shops close, everyone just goes home without talking to one another. This is quite contrasting to Germany, for example. When people leave, they always have a small chat after work. And thus, I thought for today, let's have a look at the Japanese manbu. Now, the manbu is basically an internet cafe where you can rent yourself a small cubicle and you can live in it if you want to. Because, hey, you rent it. If you want it for 1 hour, you can have it for 1 hour. If you want it for a day, you can have it for a day. And I would just say, let's watch this together and see what we can learn about it, actually. Yeah, this is the beauty of Japan, actually, that you see all of these lights. It's just so addictive. You just want to look everywhere. And I can imagine this is actually why marketing makes so much sense in Japan, because you just get distracted by every small thing. Mando. So here you can already see it in Japanese. Mando. I cannot read kanji, but that's it. He just looks a bit like a zombie, no? "39 years old, he's a webmaster, he has lived in Amando and worked for him for the last 2 years." I mean, just look at the size of that cubicle. I mean, you could barely lie down into it. At least I think I wouldn't even be able to lie down full with my full length. It just looks tiny. Oh yeah, you really just have no privacy at all. You can just see that these are just very thin sheets of wood. Everyone can hear everything that you do. On the plus side, he does, however, have 2 monitors. You know, a lot of people don't even have 2 monitors, so that's a big, big plus. I wonder if you actually get food or anything for free. Or drinks.
完全に個室じゃなくて、このウィンドウがこうつながってたり、人の声が聞こえてきたり、いびきとか。
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one thing that I hate about apartment buildings. I don't know what it is, but it's just that you basically feel as if you hear people, and there's something about it. You know, at least here we have thick walls, but can you imagine you just hear every sound as if the person is right next to you? That must be frustrating.
いろんなことが煩わしくなってしたり、住民とのなんていうか、住民の底があまり良くなかったので、もうなんか別のところでこうふわふわしてた方がいいかなってありましたね。
Can you imagine though that you live in a place and that you just don't get along with your neighbors or your tenants, and it just makes you feel as if you just don't want to come back to it? I mean, that's not home. That's bad.
定住してるのがあんまり好きじゃないので。
Yeah, exactly. You know, being tied down.
どっかに依存するとかそういうのが嫌いで、こうあっち行ったりこっち行ったりで、こう結構自由奔放に動いているので。
I mean, I can imagine that is actually one of the plus sides about living in one of these small cafes. You can just go around to, hop around from place to place and always have a new look. If you want to go to one part of the city, look for a Mando there. You want to go to the main part of Tokyo, go there. It's really just, it's an interesting way of living, actually. You have that freedom that you can just go everywhere because you're technically not homeless, but you are limiting your space, of course, But I'm really curious about the cost. Is it maybe 100 yen a night? An hour? Because that is actually not bad, but we have to see. On top of that, you can also just 100% know that here you don't have an opportunity to cook anything nice. So if anything, you are going to have a little bit more of a more expensive lifestyle purely because you will go out more, unless you are like him and you just want to eat ramen all of day. Instant food is great, but I can imagine it's not going to be good in the long term.
人にあまり干渉されないということなんですけど、悪く言えば結構閉鎖
Mabu. I keep calling it Mando, but it's Mabu. Oh no, it is actually Manbu. That is some really weird name. Ma, and then the N gets super small, and then Boo. Beautiful area here. It's always packed with people. I'm going to stop here for a second. That this Starbucks is just going to be black 24/7, especially with high tourism. Everyone wants to be there for the big pictures because here you got a great view on the crossing. It's one of the most beautiful crossings that I've seen so far in the world, and I'm just amazed that it actually functions. But you can really see how many people are standing there. Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about. The people in Tokyo, they really seem as if they only care about themselves. There's this vibe about it that even though you look at someone like, hey, I might need help, they tend to look away really quickly. And that is only something that I've noticed in bigger cities, but not only Tokyo, though. It's mainly all big cities that I've been to. Even women live there? I mean, why not? I can only imagine that they go through the same thing. 23. What's really cool about this documentary is that I just have they didn't include any type of music in the background. You hear what they hear. You hear the silence. You hear the desolation a little bit, the quietness and the isolation from the world. It's crazy. So why do you stay in one?
をうまく解消できるような場所かな。個室っていう面で一人ではあるけど、上はつながってるから人の気配とか音とかはするから完全に世界に一人ではないっていうこの外の世界とのつなぎ止める。
That's a little bit creepy somehow. But however, I do want to say that some people that I've spoken to just sleep, for example, with the TV on because they don't want the feeling as if they're alone. So they leave the TV on just to compliment them while sleeping as if someone is in the room with them. So, the way she's thinking is really just not wrong. It's a lot of people go through this. So it must be comforting at least to have at least something around you.
完全に一人は寂しい。両方うまく組み合わさってるから逆にすごく居心地がいい空間か。
The one thing that would frustrate me though is basically that you don't have windows, you don't have fresh air. I mean, I can imagine there is actually air conditioning in the place, but the idea of having a fresh window or an open window for fresh air would always be fantastic. But then again, you live in Tokyo, so the air could also just be bad. Maybe it's just one of the luxuries, you have while you're not living in the city. And look, she also actually has 2 monitors. I mean, that's so cool. Wait, actually one is a monitor and one is a TV, I guess. At least I would presume so. It would be cool because both of them only had one on. So it could be that one is actually a TV. Okay, that is less cool. And it's even one of those old school TVs, monitors, 4:3 ratio.
しかも私なんかは16度からも働いてみたから、もう社会人っていう認識の中で接せられてたから。
4,000 yen is approximately $40. But for what? I couldn't read that.
あまりにも弱すぎてそんな長く生きられないって言われてたから、目標は20歳にできることだったし、もうそれ超えちゃったから、
Good for you at least, you know.
みたいな。やりたいことってなんだろうみたいな。目的はもう全部無視になっちゃって。
That must turn your life upside down, you know. That a doctor tells you won't live longer than 20. Now you're older, so your plan just changes. Yeah. That's exactly what Corona did for many people as well. It just changes the lives of people. But I think it's much harder, you know, when a doctor tells you. It's you can hear the snoring. I'm just trying to listen to the ambience. It's really nice, actually. It's quiet. But it must be crazy that you just don't have your own bed at all.
あまりに自分に興味がなくて何も思い浮かばないかな。とりあえず生きていければいいかなっていう目標は明るく楽しく。
Good for her. She's grateful for her life at least. I mean, that's nice.
あとは夢マッサージ系とかには進みたいかなと思ってるけど、進めればそっちの勉強はしたいかなと。1年後想像もつかないけど、まあそれなりに楽しくやってそうな気はするかな。
とは言っても現状というか、結局人とこう交流しないと人間ってやっぱり成長できないとは思うんですね。そうしてくるとやはり今の社会に全うしていいのかっていう自分の。
It's funny what he has, you know, he has that idea as if he doesn't want to, you know, be stuck, or he doesn't want to, what did he say? I need to go back for a second. Like he doesn't want to get stuck in a routine. However, he has all that freedom because he only rents the place per day. But can you imagine if in Germany, and it's one of my biggest fears, you have to rent an apartment for at least a year's time. And that's just really scary for people who don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of people don't understand the fear. But if you're taking contracts for work and they basically want you to work for 6 months, 7 months, and then they might continue your contract, you never know what's going to happen. So it's a massive fear to live in this situation. And it's funny how they do it. So this is a great possibility, you know, for me to also do something like this, but this doesn't exist in Germany at all, or I would even say in Europe. I mean, you could go to a hotel, but it's really expensive, like really expensive. But I'm really curious about how much this actually costs per hour or per day. Do they get a discount? Maybe they get a discount for a week.
とかこういう満喫っていうのは確かに一時的な利便性は素晴らしいと思うんですけど、ずっとこういうところに依存していてはやっぱりダメだと思うんですよ。それは結局今までの生活が嫌でこういうところに至ったっていうのも、結局こういうところもまたこういう便利なところも依存していてはダメだと思うんですよ。そういう意味でもうすぐにこういうところを脱却して新しい世界に順応していく。
You can see that he's just really fighting that idea of isolation because he lives in a place where he just has no contact with other people. At least the other people there also don't want contact with him. So he has to find ways to get out of this rabbit hole, let's say. it's real frightening, that you have this in a massive city. Like, remember, you live in a city with 25, 30 million. I don't know how many live in Tokyo. There must be someone that you can be at least good friends with, maybe have a housemate, a roommate, live with them together. But then again, I don't know how difficult the housing situation is actually in Tokyo. It really seems as if there is a struggle and that there is some sort of pay gap, because why would you go to this extreme? I mean, why would you let go of one apartment and not just go to another? Why go to the extreme and go to something like this? There must be something behind it.
忍耐力や力強さ
An
を
underlying problem.
持っていきたいなって思いますね。
I mean, it's just crazy, to see this, because like I say, a lot of people complain about where they live, but then you have people like this that are seeking help more or less, and they want to escape this routine, but they just can't, and the big problem underneath this is just the entire mentality of Japan. And now, again, I'm not saying everyone, because like I said, I did meet some people that were super nice and super friendly, but most of them just tend to keep distant from one another, and it really doesn't help the situation for example, the people that we see here. Imagine if they just got a friend, like I say, to live with someone, to have a good time with them, It's one of the scary truths that is happening in Tokyo, and you will notice this as well when you are there. You will notice the distance that people will try to keep to you, and you will also see a lot of people just walking alone. In Germany, you would always see a group of people, maybe your friends, maybe a couple of people that of course would be alone, walking to a shop, walking to a certain location. It's not as extreme as in Tokyo. I still remember, and it's one of the things that I really said, wow, people tend to be alone here, and you can clearly see that in this video, that there is this massive underlying issue. The communication is just broken, and I don't know what the solution to it is. I will not give one because I don't know it, but it's a big problem, and I hope that everyone that is going through this phase of isolation, they can get out of it, because once you get comfortable in it, it's hard to get out of it.